Let's go to the Toms River Volkswagen Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room, Lou Scheinfeld. Good morning, Lou.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
All right, Lou. I got to tell you, I just started reading your book, and but what caught me are all the chapters. Old Blue Eyes, Smoking Joe Frazier, Kate Smith. You've got it all in here. The really interesting read. But I was telling my locker room youth movement, my producer and my intern Andrew Leeds, who are in their early 20s, they really don't remember the Spectrum, and that place was one magnificent spot to watch a sporting event or a concert.
It was, and it was kind of by accident, too, because the city only gave us 4.5 acres to build, so we had to build a building that was almost straight up rather than spread out like the modern one. So you were on top of the action, and we didn't spend 10 cents on sound, and it turned out that because of the building and the roof and everything, the sound was so great that concerts, which we really didn't count on as events, became one of the biggest things in that we had.
Lou, I got to tell you, people don't realize how much of an integral part for bringing the Flyers that you were. The story you told us at lunch I thought was really fascinating. How you were in Montreal, you had to get a check to like $2 million to Clarence Campbell. Give us a brief description of what you went through that day.
Well, we Jerry Wallman, who owned the Eagles, had a man running the building, running the team by the name of Ed Snyder. And Wallman was running around the country building all kinds of things, and he and Ed Snyder came up with the idea of trying to get a National Hockey League franchise for Philadelphia. The league was going to expand from 6 teams to 12, and they wound up getting a franchise, and that's when I went to work for them. But Jerry Wallman went under, bankrupt. He was building the Hancock building in Chicago, 100 and some stories, and the building was faulty and had to be torn down and started all over, and he went bankrupt. So we were left $1 million short of a $2 million franchise check we had to turn over. And Ed Snyder said to me, listen, we got to hand in this check on Monday. We only have $1 million. You go up to Montreal. I'll stay here and try to get that other $1 million. Well, by some miracle, he pulls it together. He gets the money together. Now, we don't have cell phones. We don't have computers. They don't exist yet. So I'm at payphones and running back and forth. And he finally says to me, listen, I got the money. I'm going to wire a $2 million check to Montreal to the bank. It's right across the street from the hotel where you guys have to turn the money over. What time do you have to give the money? I said 1 o'clock is our schedule. And word had been that we were bankrupt, that we weren't going to come up with the money. And Baltimore, which was the first alternate, had a $2 million check, and they were standing there. They heard we were going to default. So I go over to the bank at around 11:30. I'm waiting for the check, and there's a blackout on the East Coast. So there's no electricity in Philadelphia. so he couldn't wire the check. So he, through a bank in New York, Morgan Guarantee, they had that helped us on the deal. They had a private wire, whatever that is, to Montreal, and they sent the check. So the check comes through. I grab it. I run across the street. It's a hot June day. I'm in a 3-piece suit and a tie, and I climb over the big barrier in the middle of the boulevard and up the steps to the Queen Elizabeth Hotel. And Bill Putnam, who was president of the team back then, looked at the check. He says, "Oh my God, the check's no good." I said, "Why? It's certified." He said, "No, it's made out to the National Hockey League. It has to be made out to the New York Rangers because each of the new teams coming in had to turn over a $2 million check to one of the old teams." I said, "Oh, my God." So I run to a payphone. I call Snyder. Snyder says, "I'm having a heart attack." He says, "Go back to the bank and wait. I'll see what I can do." He says, "I can't believe this." So I run back to the bank, and I wait. And again, I'm climbing over the barrier in the middle of the street. It's 95 degrees. I'm waiting at the bank, Royal Canada Bank. And finally, the check comes through, and it's made out to the Rangers. I said, "Oh, thank God." Run back across the street, over the barrier, up the steps, down the hall, and the Baltimore guys are standing there, and I hear Clarence Campbell, the president of the league, say, "Philadelphia, you're up." Now, he was very skeptical that we were going to have the money. He didn't he didn't really want hockey expanding into America.
Right.
He was a real Canadian. So I go in, and he said, "Do you have the check?" I said, "Yes, I do. Here it is, sir." And I hand it to him. He looks at it, turns it over, hands it to Bill Jennings. He looks at it, turns it over, and he said, "That'll be all." I said, and I turned into Jerry Lewis. I said, like, did we get the franchise maybe? Do I get a piece of paper or a receipt? Because Mr. Snyder probably going to want to see some proof. So he said, "That'll be all." He said, "You'll have the franchise if the check clears," which I doubt. So, of course, it was certified. The money was already in the bank. So I come out and I see the Baltimore guys. I said, "Guys, I think you are screwed."
Well, thank God you got that money in on time. We wouldn't have had the Flyers. And, of course, all those years at the Spectrum, great concerts. You had, like, the Rolling Stones, and Billy Joel's been there a million times, Tom Petty, all the great Frank Sinatra, all the great entertainers have been there. You actually even talked to Frank Sinatra, you're telling us.
Well, I did. It was a funny story. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but I was paid a visit. I was president of the Spectrum at this point, and Sinatra was coming in for 2 sold-out shows. Now, Sinatra in Philadelphia was God. You know, all South Philly and Cherry Hill came. You know, they actually got dressed up and came and worshipped him. So I was leaving for Acapulco the next day on a vacation, and I get a call from Mickey Rudin in Los Angeles, who is Sinatra's manager. And he says, "Listen, the Teamsters in Philadelphia want to buy some tickets." I said, "Okay, you know, we can sell them 4 or 6 or what." He said, No, they want 1,000. I said, "Holy moly." He says, "Yeah, it's okay. Frank wants to help out the Teamsters." And now I'm smelling like, I don't know if this is kosher. He says, "They're going to come in tomorrow with a check for $15,000. Now, our top price ticket was $15 back then.
Right.
He says, "They don't need front row. Give them nice seats and be nice to them because, Frank, this is important to Frank." I said, "Absolutely. Frank wants it. Frank gets it." So I said to Snyder, "Hey, listen, Frank Sinatra wants it." He said, "I don't want to know it. I don't know anything about it. You handle it." He says, "If it goes south, it's your problem." So I said, "Well, thanks, boss, for the support." And I tell my controller, I said, "Alan, look, Teamsters coming in tomorrow with a check for $15,000. Give them nice seats, not front row, but nice seats." I said, "They're going to resell them at $30 for their welfare fund for kids and widows and stuff like that, allegedly." He says, "Fine." So I take off for Acapulco at 6 o'clock the next morning. I'm sitting at the pool in a bathing suit, and the bartender says, "Is your name Scheinfeld?" I said, "Well, it's Scheinfeld, close enough." He says, "I got a call for you." I go, "You got a call for me? This can't be good." So he answers me the phone, and it's my secretary, and she's crying. I said, "Linda, what's the matter?" She says, "There's a man sitting at your desk." I said, "Yeah." She says, "He's got a gun." I said, "What?" I said, "Who is it?" She says, "I don't know what his name is." I said, "Well," she says, "I think his name is Flowers, Frankie Flowers or something like that." I said, "Oh, this is definitely not going to be good." So I said, "Put him on." I said, "Mr. Flowers, I hear we got a problem." He goes, "You got the problem, pal." He says, I'm sitting here with nosebleed seats." He says, "I was supposed to get downstairs El Primo Tix." You know what I mean? I said, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. There must be some mistake. I don't know what happened." I told my controller to give you the really good seats. I said, "Can you come back tomorrow? We'll get you." He says, "I ain't leaving. I'm sitting at your desk." He says, "I'm sitting there until I get the tickets." I said, "Let me talk to Alan, my controller." I get on and I go, "What did you do? These are Teamsters. They'll kill us." So he says, "I didn't think they needed such great seats." I said, "I don't think you need the job anymore." So he gave them good seats, and they left, and everything went on. So now I'm sitting at the bar, and I had brought a young lady down with me to Acapulco that I was hoping to impress. It was actually our first date. And she's sitting next to me in a little bikini. We're on stools in the water at a bar in the pool. And I said, I got to call Mickey Rudin and make sure everything's okay. So I call him, and he answers and curses me out. I said, Mickey, everything's fine. He says, Frank's not coming to your building. He's pissed. He's going to Atlantic City. He's going to play the convention hall. He's going to have 30,000 people there instead of 2 shows at 15,000 at your joint. I said, oh, my God, please tell him I'm sorry. He says, tell him yourself. He's sitting right here. I go, holy, now in my bathing suit in the pool. He gets on. I said, oh, Mr. Sinatra. He said, hey, kid. He says, we're just effing with you. He said, everything's cool. He says, buy me some Jack when I'm in Philly. I said, oh, my God. Yeah, but I'm going on. He'd already hung up. I'm still talking into a dead phone. And then I look and I remember she's there, and she goes, what's happening, Louie? I said, I give her my best Humphrey Bogart. I said, doll, you don't want to know. And everything turned out okay. 2 sold-out shows. I sat there. I didn't sit on the first row. I sat with the Teamsters, believe it or not. So that was a very interesting chapter in my life.
Well, I got to tell you, not only an interesting chapter, you got a whole book of chapters, Blades, Bands, and Ballers, the story of how you guys rescued the Flyers and created Philadelphia's greatest showplace, the Spectrum. There's a lot of great stories. It's a great read, about 200 pages. I recommend it. How do people get this book, Lou?
Well, they could go online to Barnes & Noble or Amazon. It's available. They could also go to the website, themuseumofsports.org, O-R-G, themuseumofsports.org, and order it, and I'll personally autograph it and send you a little note.
Like you did for me. I appreciate it. Also, real quick, you guys are working on a museum in Philadelphia. Tell us a little bit about that briefly.
Well, we've been working on it for 11 years, believe it or not. Unfortunately, 2 of our wonderful benefactors passed away, Ed Snyder and Lou Katz, and Ed Rendell got ill. And then we had a pandemic, but we have survived. We're back. We're working very closely right now with Comcast Spectacor, Dan Hilferty and his great staff, to be part of the big redevelopment of the sports complex down there. The Phillies, the 76ers, and the Comcast Spectacor together are going to spend about $2.6 billion to turn it into a little center city, like they've done in Atlanta and other places. Wow. So we're hoping to open there. Be about 3 years before they open all this. But in the meantime, we're working on opening a pop-up museum somewhere in Philadelphia in next year, 2026, when all the people are coming to Philly for the
250 years celebration.
Yeah, the World Cup, the Major League All-Star Game, and also we're working on that. Had a great meeting at City Hall the other day with Isaiah Thomas, councilman, who's in charge of doling out the 2026 money, and we're very excited about it. We have more stuff. I call it stuff. We have more wonderful, priceless memorabilia than we can fit in 5 museums.
That's unbelievable. Well, listen, I wish we had more time, Lou, but we have to run. This book is amazing, and you got some awesome stories in there about how you got Kate Smith to come and sing and how you actually named the Spectrum. It's all in there. Lou Scheinfeld, I really appreciate all your time. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. You too.
All right, there he is.